is a land high on a hill. Where I am going, there is a voice that calls to me. The air is sweet, the grass is wave, the wind is blowing away up in the farthest field. Walk with me, and we will see the mystery revealed. When one day we went our way up to the farthest field, the sun will rise, the sun will set across the mountains, and we will live with beauty there. The fragrant flowers, the days and hours will not be counted, and peaceful songs will fill the air. Oh, walk with me, we will see the mystery revealed. When one day we went our way up to the farthest field. Oh, my dear friends, I truly love to hear your voices lifted up in radiant song. Though through the years we all have made our separate choices, we landed here where we belong. Oh, walk with me, we will see the mystery revealed. When one day we went our way up to the farthest field. So here we stand and walk as one. Through fields together we raise our voices loud and clear. We love this land, demand its care, so future children can use the waterland. And walk with me, we will see the mystery revealed. When one day we went our way up to the farthest field. Walk with me and we will see the mystery revealed. When one day we went our way up to the farthest field. Yeah!
What an awesome day for us all to stand here together across this beautiful country, down in Washington, D.C., and across the world, reminding everyone that we are ready and standing together to take back the way we make power, use power, who benefits from that power, and who stays healthy or who gets sick from that power. We have a whole awesome lineup of folks for you all to listen to today, but before we do that, I didn't say who I was. So I'm Sarah LaChance with 350 Maine, so thanks so much for having me. So I think I've got most logistics covered. Now, as I said, it is an absolute honor to be standing here with all of you who came together to stand strong and protect our beautiful Mother Earth. We all have our own journey. We all have our own story of how we got here today. And it's just so awesome, whether you've been an activist your whole life or just starting today. We are growing stronger by numbers, and we are going to take back the control of protecting our Earth for future generations. I want to just stop for a minute and remind us all that we must remember today that as we're fighting for climate justice and social justice, that the land that we fight here on today is not our land. It's the land of the Dawnland people, or the Wabanaki Confederacy. And therefore, we must always, in everything we do, we put their fight first, because their fight is our fight. because this land we stand on is their land. The air we breathe is their land, and from now on, no one's messing with their sovereignty. So, I'm not going to stand here all day, although I'd love to, so I'm going to get started with the speakers. And I'd like to have the pleasure of introducing Melissa Mann. She's the Advocacy Coordinator of Maine Conservation Alliance and Maine Conservation Voters. She's worked on environmental and electoral grassroots organizing campaigns in New York, Pennsylvania, Florida, Washington State, and now the state of Maine. She implements Maine conservation grassroots and field organizing programs and produces the environmental scorecard. Melissa?
Hey everybody! Woo! How you feeling? Woo! Awesome. I can't tell you how great it is to see all of your faces here today. We're standing in Augusta in solidarity with nearly 300 sister marches happening across the country, where we all stand for clean air to breathe, clean water to drink. Louder? Like here? Is that better? All right, cool. Ooh, feedback's not good. For clean water to drink and a healthy planet to be inherited by future generations. I'm not here today as an expert to rattle off statistics or to tell you how dire the situation is. You're here because you know that. I'm here today as a fellow concerned citizen, a Mainer by choice, and one of billions of people around the world who want to solve our climate crisis. We need to look around and realize who isn't here with us today. People I see grouped into 3 categories: the most affected, the apathetic, and our opposition. We must know and hold that there are people who couldn't get off of work today to come to a march. And we must know that climate change has stripped people of their homes and livelihoods across the world. It is our job, as we are fortunate enough to stand here, to share the stories, because the people who bear the brunt of the burden are heard from the least. And we need to elevate those on the front lines of climate change and stand with them as we fight for collective climate justice. Yeah! Next, we have the apathetic. Those either without concern for how their actions will change the world for those who come after, or are so overwhelmed by the enormity of climate change that they think that their voice is futile. We here today are proof that when we stand united, we will not be ignored. Yeah. Then there's our opposition. Those who send climate science denying materials to our teachers, those who claim that the voices of 3 should drown out the resounding consensus of 97, the corporations who rip at our natural resources with only regard for profit. Their views and actions are short-sighted, and the arc of history will prove this. But we will dig in our heels, we will stand together, we will fight, and we will win. Voting for climate action in the sustainable future is an American value, not a partisan one. Maine people are moving in that direction, and we're lucky to be represented by elected officials that, for the most part, listen to Maine people and vote to protect our air, our land, and our water. So just remember, there are people who live in deep red states who don't have a hope of their elected officials sharing those values. In that way, in Maine, we have tremendous influence, so don't let your activism end today and never stop showing up. Who's gonna leave here today and call their elected official to act on climate? Who's gonna leave here today and write a letter to the editor talking about climate change? And who here is never giving up? Yeah! Yeah. And a great opportunity to show up is this coming May 4th, this Thursday, back at the State House, we have Conservation Lobby Day. You can come and talk to your local elected officials about what's going to be happening here at the state level. And that'll be followed up with a solar rally and a solar hearing. Because it is our job to raise up the voices of those who are impacted most by climate change, to practice empathy and motivate those who are apathetic, and fight those who stand in our way. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. Next, I would like to introduce Dylan Voorhees. He's the Clean Energy Director at Natural Resource Council of Maine.
How's everybody doing today? What a beautiful day. I'm so grateful and inspired to be here with all of you and with my family. Let's see if we can get a shout out for the kids here. Mari, can you say hi? Yeah. We are gathered here. Oh, that would be good. We're gathered here today in Augusta, in Washington, all over the globe. We were gathered for science a week ago. The Women's March was here a few months ago. It is so exciting to see what's happening to our country as people come out and stand up together. Thank you, thank you. As somebody who works on these issues every day, this is like an injection of adrenaline and optimism to see all of you out here today. Together we are standing up, we're being heard, we're doing it for ourselves, for our kids, for our neighbors, for people of all different backgrounds, and we need to keep doing it because we're all in this together. And the truth is on our side. The facts are on our side, the real ones. At the People's Climate March, they were chanting, what do we want? Climate science. When do we want it? After peer review. Yes, some of you were there. The facts are undeniable that our climate is changing all around us, but it is not too late. The time is now to take action and make sure that the harm we are doing is minimized and we avert disaster. Down in Washington, D.C., President Trump has been on an insane path to roll back protections for our climate, to slash budgets that protect us. And he's not just put fossil fuels ahead of clean energy, he's put corporate polluters ahead of people, and that will not stand. The threats are real, and they're big, and so our response must be real and big. And we need to respond at all levels. In Washington, talking to members of Congress, in our homes, in our communities, and here in the state of Maine. We need to make Maine the cleanest, most sustainable state that we possibly can, and that is up to us. So the fact that Maine is in last place in New England for solar power, that won't stand either, will it? So we have an opportunity in the state to move forward with clean solar power in the state. We desperately need to. And if you're angry, if you are afraid, if you are excited, if you're agitated, if you want to channel that energy, one place it needs to go are into these two buildings. This is the People's House. And I encourage every one of you to talk to your lawmaker about solar power legislation that we need to pass this session. They will listen, they are good people, and they want to hear from you. I encourage all of you to come back here on Thursday. As Melissa mentioned, we'll be rallying for solar power, and not just rallying, that's really important, what we're doing right now, but we need to testify. We need to write letters. We need to talk to our lawmakers, and we need to tell them that we expect Maine to move forward on solar power. Are you going to do it? Are you with me? And that's one piece of what we need to do on this larger puzzle. We all have to send our energy and our love and our activism and our letters down to Washington, but we need to not forget our home and make sure that we're doing everything we can to move forward on climate justice, and that means in Maine this year, moving forward on solar power. Thank you very much, everybody, and have a wonderful day.
So the next person I want to introduce is our Representative Sarah Gideon. She's a Speaker of the House and a proud resident of Freeport. Please join me in welcoming Representative Gideon.
Is this working? Okay. Hey, can we just start by having all of you take a look around at yourselves and how many people are here in the name of stopping climate change and how important our Earth is to us, and give yourselves a hand. I hope you don't mind if I start by sharing a story with you. It's a story from 5 years ago. Okay, I did it. I was hesitant because I have a tendency to drop the whole mic when I do that. Okay, so I wanted to start by sharing a story with you. This story is from 5 years ago when I was running for state office for the first time. And in 1 week, I had 2 very different conversations. One conversation was with a little boy in his first decade of life. The other conversation was with a woman in her 6th decade of life. The first conversation was with my son, Alec, who was 7 at the time. And he was learning earth sciences, and he said, "Mom, I'm learning about climate change, and it seems like things are gonna get hotter and hotter. Does that mean that we're eventually just going to burn up? And can you change it?" The second conversation was with a woman who I met when I was going to her door to ask her about issues that she cared about. Her name is Eugenie. She lives in Freeport. And she said to me, "Sarah, if we send you to Augusta, do you promise that you will consider science and data in facts in all of the decisions that you make? And do you promise that you will consider renewable energy policies in the context of climate change and do everything that you can to arrest climate change?" I did end up coming to Augusta. I've been here now for 4.5 years. When I came here, I asked to work on the Energy Committee, and I have spent most of my time here working on exactly those policies and remembering my conversations with Eugenie and with Alec in every single decision that I make. As Sarah said, my name is Sarah Gideon. I am the Speaker of the Maine House of Representatives, and it is my distinct honor to be here surrounded by all of you and marching alongside all of you today. We are Mainers, and we love our place. We swim in these waters, we fish in them, we farm our beautiful land, we recreate on our mountains, but we also know this, that our environment is absolutely tied to our economy. Our wind, our water, our woods are the very things that fuel our livelihoods. But all of those things are in peril right now. It is a real turning point for us, and at the same time that we are under this threat, we also have a clear path to an alternative that will change our course and change direction. And that has everything to do with renewable energy policies.
Yes.
So many of you who are here today, it's been so great to see so many people again, I have to say, because so many of you are people who show up in the committee rooms over there, in the Environment and Natural Resources room, and in the Energy, Utility, and Technologies room. So many of you are people who came by the hundreds on multiple days last year, wrapped in yellow t-shirts, saying, "We care about generating more energy from the sun. We know how to do it. Give us what we're asking for. Make it easier for us." There is one thing that we know is not going to change for human beings anytime soon. That is how much energy we can consume. It will only become greater. We can harness the energy from the sun, we can harness the energy from the wind, and we can do it in a way that is not harmful to any of us, or the land or water we care about, or our children or grandchildren's future.
Yes.
under this governor's administration, even under this president's administration, even as the EPA removes data and scientific information from its website about climate change, state by state, we will continue to do the work from the ground up, just the way we are with all of you here today. We will fight climate change. We will enact policies that do it. We will march, and we will make a difference. My son Alec is 12 and a half now. He's the one I told you about before when he was 7. And recently, I'm going to give you the whole context of the story. I was telling him to put his screen down, and he said to me, "Mom, you grown-ups are always complaining when we kids are looking at a screen. But," he said, "I just want to remind you," and this is what I tell other grown-ups too, he said, "we didn't vote for Trump, we didn't create climate change, but we're going to deal with it. We're responsible." Every one of us here today has the voice of a Eugenie or an Alec whispering in our ear. Maybe many, I suspect, of us here today are the voices of Eugenie and Alec every day. In these days, which feel more menacing than ever, there are 2 things I want to tell you. One is to ask this of you: keep doing what you're doing. Keep raising your voice. Keep showing up. Keep emailing people like me. Keep calling us. Keep holding us accountable. That is how we will make a difference. And in return, what I promise you is that I will be here fighting for all of these things every day, along with my colleagues. Thank you. You have no idea how grateful I am to know that the work that I'm doing every day is supported and pushed by every one of you. Thank you for showing up. Can't wait to continue this day with you.
Next speaker is Roger Katz, who is a Republican state senator from Augusta. A former mayor of Augusta, Katz serves on the Appropriations Committee and chairs both the Government Oversight Committee and the Marijuana Implementation Committee. Senator Katz?
Good morning, everybody. Okay, so this is a little lesson in political science about how you can get elected to office. You can either be smart and articulate like the speaker, or you can knock on doors with 2 cute dogs like I did. Neither one seems to have worked. So thank you all so much for coming to my hometown for this event today. And my message is really very simple. Climate change is not a Democrat or a Republican issue. Climate change is not a Democrat or a Republican issue. You know, there's a gentleman sitting over here. He's got a sign that says, "I'm a scientist, ask me stuff." That was the sign of the day. And you know, if you weren't feeling well and you went to 100 doctors, and 99 of them told you had pneumonia, and one of them said, "No, you really don't," I think most of us would go ahead and get it treated for the pneumonia, don't you? And that's where this is not a matter of ideology or a belief system. Whether you believe in God or not, that's a belief. But these are scientific facts, and these are scientific facts, and they are here in front of us. So as soon as we can all kind of agree on the basic science of the situation, then we can talk about solutions, because the solutions are not simple. For some, it might be things like RGGI, or it might be more energy efficiency, or it might be cap and trade systems. For other people, it might be as simple as a carbon tax. And by the way, there's a fair amount of conservatives in this country now who are beginning to embrace the idea of a carbon tax. But let's begin to have the discussion,
because our kids, as Sarah was saying, our kids deserve it and our grandkids deserve it. So when you're here this week, seek us all out, not just the Democrats, not just the Republicans or the Independents, all of us. And let's do all we can so this isn't a partisan issue. Thanks all for being here.
Thank you, Senator Cates. The next person I'd like to introduce is going to have us do some more group participation again. Time to hear from you folks some more. And that is Lee Chisholm. He's part of 350 Maine. He lives in Freeport. He's an amazing teacher, artist, and spends all of his time working to protect this beautiful planet. Lee?
Hello, everybody. I'm going to do for 3 minutes a sort of... I wonder what all that feedback was. For 3 minutes or so, I'm going to do a participatory story chant. That means that you're going to be involved. And wait for your cues. And when I give you something to say it twice. Are you ready? This is the story part. There was once a king in the West who lived in a high tower above the city. He had golden hair and a golden touch. Everything he approached seemed to blazon his name. And this golden king was famed and feared throughout the world. But he was also fearful. To protect himself from the people of the South, who didn't really wish him any harm, he ordered the construction of a great wall, higher than the Great Wall of China. But the people of the West loudly protested, calling out, "Giant walls and great big hands will never, ever protect our lands. Giant walls and great big hands will never, ever protect our lands." To protect himself from the people of the East, who likewise didn't really wish him any harm, he banned all travel to the West unless he personally permitted it, and he didn't intend to permit it. Again, the people of the West loudly protested, calling out, "Fear and hate and travel bans can never, ever protect our lands. Fear and hate and travel bans can never, ever protect our lands." Thinking to arm himself in this way with what generations of an age now passing had worshipped as black gold. Many, many people warned that this was not only unjust, but also fatally foolish. And once again, the people of the West protested. They called out this time more loudly than ever. Coal and oil and pipeline spans can never, ever protect our lands. Oil and pipeline spans will never, ever protect our lands. So in this way, the weeks of his kingship came and went, and not one of the things that the Golden King had ordered were accomplished. But the threats remained. On the 100th day of his reign, thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people assembled in squares and on streets, on commons and malls from every corner of his realm to stand up for what they most cherished. Their voices on that historic day were stentorian. Yet, some said the essence of what they heard was not loud, but still. Not outward, but inward. Not angry, but prayerful. It was, they said, like the voice of Mother Earth itself carried upon the wind, heard carried upon the wind in a moment of silence, in a moment of silence. A moment of silence, inward, not outward. And as we break that moment, be mindful of the hundreds of thousands of people who are doing what we are doing right now, not just in America, but around the world.
Thank you, Lee. Thank you, everybody. Before I introduce our next speaker, I just want to remind us all again, as we walk today, we must carry with us the reality that First Nation people across this globe, out in Standing Rock, and right here in the state of Maine, folks like the Penobscot Nation continue to have to be in conflict, not a conflict that they brought, but a conflict that we brought with our local governments and our local industries. They must continue to fight for their sovereignty, their fishing rights, and their water quality and their way of life. And as we walk today, we must remember that we will stand in solidarity with them, stronger than ever. So it is my honor to introduce June Sapiel of the Penobscot Nation. She's a tribal member, a mom, a grandma, a business administration major, a water protector, and an earth advocate. June?
Wuli Spuzaway, Kachi, Wuli Wani Kichinwes. Brenna Webskig. My name is June Sapiel. Thank you. Thank you, Great Spirit, for letting us all be here today in this space. I would like to call for a moment of silence for all our ancestors, all our relations, and for all of us that cannot be with us today. I have a little time and pray that Great Spirit breathes His holy breath into your hearts and your minds, and that you hear my words. Since time immemorial, my nation and other First Nations have stood and protected our precious land and water. And for all of us, the earth, our mother, is our relation. For us, no amount of abuse is acceptable. No fracking, no mining, no pipelines, and no theft of our water. For us, it is all a circle. If we do not respect our earth, she will suffer and will not sustain us with our basic needs of clean air, water, and plentiful lands. You all know what is happening to our earth. That is why you're here. What we need to do is educate, network, and be present. Be active and do not be silent. Continue the journey you have asked to be on. Please don't let our water protectors and what they have been put through be in vain. Hear the words that you hear today. Journey home and share them with all. Know and believe that when we stand together, we are stronger. Thank you for hearing my words. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being present. And please, speak up. Go out there. Don't be silent. Be present. Use your bodies, your voice, and anything that you have available to speak what we're hearing today. Thank you. It is my honor to stand with you all today.
The next speaker I would like to introduce is Saharla Farah. She's a 16-year-old student leader in Portland's Deering High School. She's been active in Black Lives Matter, Martin Luther King Fellows, the Portland School Board as a student representative, and Seeds of Peace, to name just a few of her actions. With a beloved grandmother living in a drought-stricken Somalia, Saharla knows firsthand what climate change really means to so many people around the world. Please welcome Saharla.
Thank you for the introduction. I'd like to talk to you all today about perspective. Perspective and ignorance go hand in hand. Without one, you are the other. Sadly, far too many people aren't aware of the global part of global warming. Right now in East Africa, there are men, women, and children suffering from the biggest humanitarian crisis since 1945. The homeland has fallen victim to the impact of climate change. My grandmother is currently, or at least trying to, live in Somalia. It is very easy for them to exhaust their resources, let alone obtain them. We must know that climate justice is a social justice issue. Globally, communities of color, as well as those of low income, are disproportionately affected by climate change. We often have a closed concept of what or who exactly are being affected by these disparities. Animals and various environmental groups often come to mind. Did you know a key decider in where facilities that are toxic, like coal power plants in this country, are based on race? These plants have people exposed to dangerous hazards that get into their food and water supplies, stunting the health of these communities. Our people are being neglected. We know that we are all dependent on the environment and all its products. But again, perspective. Imagine being so ignorant and privileged to confidently say our climate is not changing, and for the worse. Our government thinks global warming would be good for Maine. We have a president that thinks it's a hoax. Well, what we really have are actual people with real experiences already suffering. Locally, climate change is costing jobs. Livelihoods are being affected in our state. That doesn't sound like a good thing or a hoax to me. What's going to happen years and years from now? What state will our earth be left in? For my children and theirs as well. Will a state as beautiful as ours still be known for our environment? And to those sitting luxuriously here at the state capitol and those in Washington, D.C., it's sad to know that their words hold power. They hold power that many of us think we can't possibly reach. Well, today, everyone, I see power. I see power. I see untapped gold ready to be liquidated. This is what democracy looks like. This is what our country needs more than ever. Not only to implement positive change, but to ensure that our surroundings are still around so we can do so. Thank you.
I would like to introduce our next speaker, Alyssa Thompson, a youth activist from Monmouth High School.
Hello, and thank you for the introduction, and thank you all for coming today. My name is Alyssa Thompson, and in a short few weeks, I'll be turning 18, And I'm proud to say that I've lived in Maine for every one of those years. Thank you. My upbringing was quiet and probably rather similar in one way or another to how many of you were brought up. Some of my fondest memories are of hiking, camping, and taking trips to the ocean with my family, learning how to fish and how to hunt with my parents. I remember eating fresh lobster in my Aunt Debbie's moose jerky and popping the top off a countless number of canning jars. But as much as I love Mainer food, I didn't come out here to rant and rave about homemade pickles or Italian sandwiches or even moxie. Growing up a Mainer, I learned to love the smell of mud flats or a salty ocean breeze, the feel of pine sap on my palms, the sight of chickadees or moose, or even a simple sunrise or sunset. All of these elements come together and remind me that this is my home. From the top of Katahdin to the bottom of our Gulf to our Capitol building, this is our home. I'm young and I've only seen a fraction of the world, but I feel like the state of Maine has a unique connection to and dependency upon our environment. Our economy is rooted in the exportation of seafood, coniferous wood, and produce, amongst other things. Members of our communities rely upon snow-heavy winters or summer tourists to support their local businesses. And many families do still depend upon hunting and fishing and farming to provide for themselves. The relationship that most Mainers have with nature is undoubtedly something for our communities to pride ourselves in. But the effects of climate change can be felt around the globe, and Maine is not exempt from these impacts. If anything, Maine is more susceptible to the consequences of climate change. I've felt these ramifications personally, and I'm sure many of you have as well. The Gulf of Maine is warming faster than 99% of the rest of the world's oceanic bodies. Our lobsters have been migrating north for 40 years, and in their place we're finding other invasive species from warmer mid-Atlantic waters. Within my lifetime, I've watched our winters grow mild, our summers drier, and the population of ticks run rampant. My old biology teacher taught us about species of birds and turtles that once were in Maine when he was a kid, but they're just not around anymore. Despite climate change seemingly slapping us in the face, many of our politicians just look away and continue to allow corporations like Nestle to exploit the Earth's natural resources. They hear our demands for climate justice and try to silence us by insisting we should focus on the more positive effects of global warming. Our own governor was quoted in an article by the Bangor Daily News talking about the opportunities developing from climate change. But if I'm being honest, we don't care about the opening of the Northeast Passage, Governor LePage. Our priority isn't to find ways to save companies money by cutting 40% off their travel time. Our concerns are not centered around market openings in Asia. And quite frankly, when approached with the topic of climate change, business fairs should not be the discussion point of our governor or any other politician. Climate change is a multidimensional issue which ultimately cannot be simply taken in stride. Climate change is factual, the results are tangible, and it is disrupting the lives of real people, particularly the lives of people who are already members of marginalized communities. The insinuation that we can simply focus on the benefit of climate change is a reflection of ignorance and privilege. Moreover, it proves that our elected officials are so disconnected from the issues impacting Mainers, they fail to actually represent us or advocate for our needs. But our experiences are real. The experiences of marginalized peoples are real. They are real and they are lived, and that is exactly why we're here today.
That's right.
I trust that I don't need to stand before you all and explain why investing in solar energy is better than expanding a pipeline, or explain how harmful Nestle's unsustainable practices are. You already know. Instead, I'd like to leave you all with an ask. Please, continue showing up like you have here today. Show up to solar hearings, to rallies or protests, to networking events, to workshops. Show up in your daily life. Start having these dialogues with your friends and family. Call your local representatives. Join a letter writing campaign. Change starts small, and it'll take a community effort to combat this systemization. Thank you.
Thank you, Alyssa. Our next speaker is Vaughn Woodruff. He lives in his hometown of Pittsfield. He's the owner of InSource Renewables. He's the chair of the Committee on Renewable Energy, the trade group for Maine's solar industry. Vaughn?
Thank you. Thanks for being here. I want to thank the organizers for putting together an excellent event. I'm very excited to see a bunch of young people here, some of my favorites, and that's always inspiring. And I also want to say this loud enough to security over there. Thank you for taking a Saturday to be here and work for us. I appreciate that. So, I've been in cities and communities across the country for events like this over the last 20 years, and they're always reinvigorating. It always helps remind us that we're not alone in this fight. But it also helps remind me at times that we sometimes live in a bubble. And it's one that is probably the biggest challenge that we have, because in the last 20 years, if we look at this, we no longer have a technical problem with climate change. We have a problem of hearts and minds. We have a political problem that we need to resolve. As I was preparing today, I was thinking about the folks watching these clips on the news tonight and how privileged we must look to folks in Millinocket, in Lincoln, in Rumford, to the farmers who are watching their kids move out of the state and have nobody to take over the farm that has sustained them and formed their identity for generations. And it's hard, right? That's the gap that we have, and that's the reality that we have. Climate change is going to impact those folks, probably more so than many of the rest of us, right? But we have to figure out a solution that's going to be able to do both. And we are very fortunate today that we have that. The technological advances that we have seen with renewable energy, with energy efficiency, with alternative transportation, gives us opportunity to be able to solve both of these issues. And on the front lines, as the owner of a solar company, we see this everywhere. I sell to people that are more liberal than you. I sell to people that are far more conservative than you. As Senator Kate said, this is not a Democratic issue. This is not a Republican issue. This is a Mainer issue. So as we move forward, we need to break down this bubble. We need to communicate that the solutions that we see, and we see this across the state right now with energy efficiency, with renewable energy, it's impacting the entire state. It's not just the rich. It's not just the urban. This is a great equalizer. And so I hope that all of us today will think about that it's great for us to come out here and get reinvigorated. We need to reach out. We need to demonstrate that the solutions that make sense economically today are the ones that are going to solve the more abstract challenge that a lot of folks are seeing for tomorrow. I want to leave you. I was fortunate to see Winona LaDuke a couple weeks ago up in Colby, who's one of my personal heroes. And she had a statement that I think we always need to keep in mind. And it was a question, which is, what kind of elder are we going to be? And I think as we walk away from here, if we reach out and we close some of these gaps and we think about how we can impact things both from an economic and from an environmental standpoint, we will see great success. Thank you.
Thank you, Vaughn. So I'm about to introduce our last speaker before we all get marching, but I just want to remind you quickly, as we head out, go down this way, take a left, and go down Union Street. And if you need some sunscreen, there's some on the 350 Main table. I know we haven't seen the sun very much this spring. So, it is my honor to introduce Dawn Neptune Adams. She's an Indigenous rights and environmental activist from the Penobscot Nation, specializing in citizen journalism with the Sunlight Media Collective. She's a mom, a carpenter, a science major, and a water protector. Please join me in welcoming Dawn Neptune Adams.
There we go. I don't like to be on a leash. Imagine that. One more? Okay. First of all, can I get a mini wachoni? Mini wachoni! Ah, that sounds so good. You know, I was in Portland visiting Jackie, my friend over here, and I had the urge to just say that out loud in the middle of a crowded street, and I did. And nobody answered me. So if you hear that on the streets of your town, if you hear someone say, Mini Wachoni, answer them back or they will cry. Water is life. That's in the Lakota language. In the Penobscot language, it's Nibi Bamagawazin. That one's a little more difficult, but I'll help you after if you like. So, Kwekwe, Aguanu, and Deluizi Dawn, Nyan Banawabskewi. Hello, welcome. My name is Dawn, and I am Penobscot. Our ancestors gifted us with a lot of stories. They passed those down to us in the hopes that we would keep them in mind for times just like we are in now. Some of those stories tell us of a time when we could communicate with the animals. We could understand them and they could understand us. Now, for most of us, that time has passed. However, the Moose sent me here today to speak up on their behalf. What happens to our four-legged, finned, feathered, and creepy-crawly relatives, it affects us. We are all related and connected. And the moose, if you could hear her, she is crying out for help. It has been said that in 20 years, the moose will be extinct in Maine. Now, there's a combination of factors related to that, but the biggest one, aside from the brainworm and the proliferation of ticks, I got that wrong. Aside from the brainworm and the summer heat, it is the proliferation of ticks. In the state of Maine, we're known for our rocky coastline and our cold, cold winters. Well, we haven't had those cold winters in a while, and the ticks thrive in warm winters. In 2015, there was a mortality rate of 64% for moose calves. That means that 64% of the moose that were born here in our homeland, they died before they reached maturity. One of these moose calves had over 40,000 ticks on its body. Climate change is real, and we can affect the outcomes. We can do what we need to do to reverse this if we have enough faith and if we work together. These prophecies that our ancestors gave to us, they were passed down to us so that we would remember when we are in times of crisis like this, like we are right now, that we would hear their words and that our spirits would be strengthened for the battle. I'd like to read some words for you from Crazy Horse. It was his last prophecy in 1877. He spoke these words after smoking the Chinoopa pipe with Sitting Bull. Upon suffering beyond suffering, the red nation shall rise again, and it shall be a blessing for a sick world. A world filled with broken promises, selfishness, and separations. I see a time of 7 generations when all the colors of mankind will gather under the sacred tree of life, and the whole earth will become one circle. In that day, there will be those among the Lakota who will carry knowledge and understanding of unity among all living things. And the young white ones will come to those of my people and ask for this wisdom. I salute the light within your eyes, where the whole universe dwells. For when you are that center within you, and I am in that place within me, we shall be as one. We have a difficult task ahead of us, but have heart relatives. These days have been foretold a long time ago. I know it feels disheartening sometimes. I know it feels like we're playing whack-a-mole. You know, something pops up. We try to put a lid on it, and then something else pops up. We just have to keep on it. We have to keep after it. These stories that were passed down to us about Gluskab, our cultural hero, they tell us that he went away to Katahdin to rest, but that if we were ever in trouble again, all we would have to do is call to him and he would come help us. So, when you're speaking to your higher power or not, include a call to Gluskab, because we could really use his help. In the meantime, I am proud to stand with you relatives. K'chibaliwini.
Thank you, Don. Okay, everyone. Thank you so much for coming out today. None of this would be possible if each and every one of you didn't show up. So let's go march. Head left, turn left, go around the park, watch the people in the blue vest keep you orderly, and we'll see you back here. Thank you, everyone.
There is a land high on a hill. Where I am going, there is a voice that calls to me. The air is sweet, the grass is wave, the wind is blowing away up in the farthest field. Walk with me, and we will see the mystery revealed. When one day we went our way up to the farthest field.
Please feel free to sing on that chorus.
The sun will rise, the sun will set across the mountains, and we will live with beauty there. With the fragrant flowers, the days and hours will not be counted, and peaceful songs will fill the air. Oh, walk with me, we will see the mystery revealed. When one day we went our way up to the farthest field. Oh, my dear friends, I truly love to hear your voices lifted up in radiant song. Though through the years we all have made our separate choices, we landed here where we belong. Oh, walk with me, and we will see the mystery revealed. When one day we went our way up to the farthest field. So here we stand and walk as one Through fields together we raise our voices loud and clear. We love this land, demand its care, so future children can use the water, land, and air. Walk with me and we will see the mystery reveal. When one day we went our way up to the farthest field. Walk with me and we will see the mystery reveal. When one day we went our way up to the farthest field. Yeah!